Hey everyone, it's Cam at American Community Bank. I hope you're doing well. We got a CPI, consumer inflation report yesterday, and I thought I would do a quick video on that for folks that didn't want to comb through the whole report but wanted some highlights. So I have a couple of things I want to show you here. So here are some key takeaways from that inflation report. You'll see that headline CPI and core CPI haven't changed significantly month over month, but core CPI has ticked up a little bit, and that's actually the number that the Fed cares about when it comes to cutting interest rates. And the reason they use core CPI over headline CPI is it excludes food and energy, which can be particularly volatile. If you remember eggs earlier this year, spiking and then dropping back down, it's a better measure of the underlying inflation or the core inflation that the economy is seeing. So, a couple of big increases in shelter, medical care, eating out, car insurance, electricity. Electricity is in part a result of all the build out of data centers and the kind of additional tax that's putting on the electric infrastructure. So we expect that that number could continue to rise as more data centers are built out. The big declines really are in gas and oil, and that's actually what's leading to the discrepancy in the headline versus the core CPI. So, because the headline includes that big drop in gas, we're actually seeing a lower headline than core CPI, which is not always the case. Sometimes that headline is higher, and the core is actually what's more concerning as far as that number climbing up. So there's been some talk about whether we can trust the CPI numbers we're getting, especially in light of the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics being let go. So here are a couple of measures I found that can actually impact whether CPI really reflects reality or not. The first one here is owner's equivalent rent. So that figure is a figure that the BLS uses that oftentimes understates actual housing cost increases, particularly in situations where demand exceeds supply, which is the case in the U.S. right now, generally speaking. There's also substitution bias. This one is interesting. Basically, the CPI assumes that consumers will change their spending habits depending upon what prices do. So if the cost of steak goes up, CPI assumes that you're going to buy chicken. In actuality, you might keep buying steak and you might see an increase in your daily costs, but that doesn't always get captured in the CPI. Quality adjustments, a really good example of this is smartphones. You might see, or TVs, you might see an increase in the cost of smartphones or TVs, but you'll see inflation down. And the justification for that is new features have been added to either the smartphone or the TV that have increased its value, and that's why the price has gone up, not because of inflation. Where in actuality, sometimes there is some inflation that's kind of baked into that price increase that doesn't get captured as such. And then lastly, there's regionality. So I was surprised to see that there's such a big discrepancy depending on what region you live in the US. So Northeast saw the most inflation, followed by the West, and then the Midwest, and then the South. So depending on where you live in the US, inflation is going to impact you differently. So that's what I have for you today. Really, the jury's still out on what rate cuts are going to look like for the rest of the year. There's still the possibility that inflation pops up as tariffs continue to take effect. But there's also the possibility that we have bigger labor problems in the meantime. So Jerome Powell has a really tough job here determining when and how to cut rates. So we'll continue to watch these numbers carefully. And if we see another really weak labor report, then we're probably looking at rate cuts sooner than later. But we may run into an issue where we've got both unemployment going up and inflation going up. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But if you have any questions for me on business banking, on interest rates, on inflation, I would be happy to talk. You can give me a call. If this was helpful, please like and comment and have a good day.